chat today. Myself and my beautiful friend here, I promise you we have got not only clinical experience, but we lived experiences when it comes to oxalates. So I'm really honored that you are here. So we have a lot of just hold on, guys. I know you're seeing this. Lived experience. So you want to do this one? So hold on. So that's great. Okay, so just disregard that we've had two channels running bi-directionally. Hi, Augie.
Hello.
How are you? This was a conversation we practically just hijacked yesterday, isn't it?
Yeah. This is kind of not planned, but I guess
Okay?
it's part of the moment.
Conversation, and I think this conversation, I like the synchronicity. Like I was saying to you, the clients that I just had right now, I was hoping, I'm sure she's going to join us on YouTube just a few minutes ago. Her baby has lost her baby has lost about from 50 points to 16 points. And I've been working with her for years, by the way, guys. If you're listening to me and you're new to my channel, my name is Natsayi. Myself and Augie, we work with children that have got complex autism. So if your baby has got an ATEC score of above 40, then this conversation is yours. But if your baby has got level 1 autism, then what we are going to talk about today is probably going to be a little bit too difficult for you to digest, because myself and Augie, we are kind of, what do we call ourselves, Augie? Well, our own personal experiences has driven us to be in this this arena. Isn't it?
It's funny, yesterday when I called you up and then I started telling you about oxalates and you were just discussing oxalates just now. I was like, wow, how come so that's the synchronicity you were talking about. So oxalates is something that I think most people are not really aware about, especially when you change your diet and then you think you're doing well, you're eating all the right things, but things don't seem to be going well. That could be something to look into.
Yes, and I think when I finished having a conversation with you yesterday, when you're like, I think I'm bringing these oxalates back again. You know what came up? Let me just make you laugh. What came up? So of late, Jojo has got this whole kid thing that happens at night. And guess what he's drinking? He's drinking hibiscus tea.
Oh.
And hibiscus has got over 1,000 milligrams of oxalates per cup.
Yeah, I didn't even know that.
No, I didn't even stop to think about it. And I think, beautiful souls, if you're joining into this conversation, we are practically just going to, this is an informal conversation about oxalates that both myself and Augie, we have tons of materials on this subject. And if you hop onto Augie, she's on Instagram. If you're on YouTube, I'm going to be leaving the links for you to hop and support her on her Instagram. She's just published her page. So we want to flock there and support it. But going back to the subject of oxalates, it's really because both myself and Augie, we tend to cross-reference some of our children that are a little bit stuck. And when you look at what is happening with the children that are stuck, when you really dissect their diets, what you see in most cases is oxalates. And then we ask ourselves, why are these oxalates keep popping up, isn't it? And we are talking about our personal experiences. Yesterday, I was having a conversation with Augie, and she made me think, because Jojo doesn't do well with oxalates. And I was like, hang on, let me just look at the things that he usually has. And one of the things that he usually has is hibiscus. And hibiscus has got over 1,000 milligrams of oxalates, right? And not only that, Augie. Shall I tell you what else is in there?
What else is he having now? Is he having sweet potatoes every day?
It is ridiculous. It's beyond ridiculous. So, guys, when I always say that I'm also a student on this journey, I'm telling you, I'm also a student. But I think Our biggest issue, Ogie, I think that we want to talk about is being observant of what it is that you're giving your child and not really taking it for granted that your baby is doing so well, like Jojo, Jojo is doing well and your son is doing well. And you think it's okay. And then you stop checking the labels. You just stop taking the labels. Recently, we just started, just as a confession for you to know, we started a new protein shake. And a new protein shake. And I was like, it has strawberries. And guess what else is in there? Guess what else is in there?
What else?
Beets.
And the thing about oxalate is that, all the things you consider healthy. So that's the painful thing in a way, if you look at it. So you think you're doing all the right things, but why is my child more aggressive? Why do they seem to be in pain? They are acting more, more severe, like maybe they're poking their eyes, they are being irritable, they are urinating frequently. And then you're thinking, well, I'm doing all the things. I'm giving them loads of, maybe I'm juicing. I'm giving them green smoothies. I'm juicing celery. So what's going on? I'm giving them sweet potato, plantains. All those things.
And I think I can also understand the frustration of parents, isn't it? Because like here I am, I have not seen the obvious effects of these, side effects of this hibiscus that we've just introduced, but it's likely that it's accumulative. So when you're talking about oxalates, really, it's not necessarily that everything is going to be zero oxalates. We're talking about milligrams. So we really need to aim for 50 to 100 milligrams of oxalates. But when a kid is taking a cup of hibiscus tea that has got 1,000 milligrams of oxalates, what is going to happen in 6 months if he continues to do that when we look at the organic acid test? You see? So it's kind of accumulative. And I think it was you were talking to me about the effects of, yes, it was you actually. You were talking to me about the effects of oxalates on the mitochondria. So we're going back to children that are not conversating, that are not communicating, children that are nonverbal.
So the thing is, these oxalates in our children, for some reason, they have children with autism tend to have more oxalates or accumulate or absorb oxalates. There could be so many different reasons why, but you can have passive absorption of the oxalates, especially if you have leaky gut. And also if you have the kind of dysbiosis, because in our gut, we have bacteria that should be breaking down this oxalates. But if you have a dysbiotic gut, that would mean that you might then be able to absorb the bacteria in your gut is not doing exactly what it's supposed to do. So then you're more, susceptible to accumulating oxalates. And these oxalates, they go into our body. They're like crystals, literally, like crystals, and they just inflame our tissues. They can literally like shred you. It's like, think about it like, having like razor, it can cause like joint pain. It can affect your mitochondria, and the mitochondria is what helps us make energy, so that you see things like fatigue, so the effects can be far-reaching. They bind our minerals, like calcium, magnesium, which means they are no longer available to the body.
Yeah, and if you really want to think about what you've just said, I was actually thinking about the unfortunate part about it, is that our children cannot communicate, right? Our children do not have the vocabulary to say, "Mommy, my joints are painful."
They
don't have that vocabulary, at least you and me. I was actually trying to, let me see. So apparently this is an image. It's for those that are on TikTok that are not, if you go and watch YouTube, you will actually see the picture that I've actually put on our screenshot. You'll actually see that is actually an image of oxalates under the microscope. So what Ogie is saying in regards to they are painful is not an exaggeration. They are extremely painful, extremely painful. And for me, I think every time when I say to my parents, send me a video of your child, and they send me a child like this, the kids that are walking around with tension faces, and the kids that are rocking, and the kids that are flapping because it deposits itself under the tissue, I automatically think oxalates. And surprise, surprise, Augie, what do we see when we see the therapy trackers?
It's a sweet potato. And that's why I don't know. But the question then is why? Because humans have been eating these foods like forever. So why is it suddenly, is a problem? What's happening? Is it I got my microbiome is changing or our situation is changing? Because it's difficult when you tell somebody. There's some moms, you tell them you don't give your child okra, and they're looking at you like, well, why are you telling me not to give them okra? What should I be giving them? You're telling them to give them butternut squash, and they're like, what? My ancestors were not eating butternut squash. So why is this happening? So many.
I think okra is a very difficult one, because also okra is very healthy if you want to think about it.
Most of the foods are healthy.
Yes, and so for you and me to come and say to someone, stop okra, it's more like, come on, guys, you're in Cuckooland. What are you talking about? How can you say I shouldn't be giving my child okra? And plantains are a big one, especially to our fellow African moms. Plantains are a big issue. I was just talking to one of my clients actually yesterday about plantains. So what do we see on the majority of the therapy tracker? Sorry, guys, I don't have a therapy tracker with me here to show you, but when you go back into the recordings of the oxalate conversation, because I think we're going to have a playlist on the subject of oxalates, because I really want us to work hard on bringing them down. And if you bring them down as much as you can, then when you get to a certain point, then you can engage myself and Augie to help your child detox those oxalates. But the reason for this conversation is because we really want you to do the first step of reducing oxalates and taking the oxalates out of your children's diet. So in this conversation, before the end of the day, we are going to be sharing with you the 10 foods that you should not ever, ever, ever consider, including hibiscus now. Hibiscus is now, we've just added hibiscus on, on the list. It wasn't there until yesterday. So before the end of today, we will be sharing with you the 10 foods that should not be on your child's therapy tracker. So if you don't know what a therapy tracker, guys, I've spoken about the therapy tracker a million times. This is one tool that you need to make sure you're supporting your child. If your child is still on the spectrum, they still have behaviors and they're still struggling, you need a therapy tracker, okay? So we're going to be sharing with that. Okay, can we just talk about these 10 foods? What are we seeing on these therapy trackers on your end? And I'll share what I'm seeing on my end.
Sweet potatoes, plantains.
Sweet potatoes. Let's talk about sweet potatoes. Okay.
And I love sweet potatoes. I love sweet potatoes.
Let's talk about sweet potatoes, because I struggle with the idea of not having sweet potatoes, because really, if you want to look at sweet potatoes, they really do have quite a lot of benefits, but they are sitting on the top 10 of oxalates. And here we are saying, let's remove, I'm well spoken about rice. Guys, by the way, today, if I don't confuse you today, you'll never be confused. I just want to apologize for that. So in most cases, you will hear me saying no rice, right? But today, you'll probably hear me saying rice in this case, because rice
is low oxalate, oxalate, white rice.
Exactly. So we
brown rice.
Yeah. So we're coming back to that subject that I always say when people say to me, Natsayi, give me something to give my child, right? And I always come back and say, guys, when you see one child with autism, you've actually just seen one child with autism. This is exactly a classic example of why I struggle. Okay, I struggle when somebody says to me, give me what to give my child.
Yeah, because if I come back and say,
yes, if I come back and say, remove rice, and give your child oxalates, I'm in trouble, right? I'm sorry, what you call, what was it we were talking about?
Sweet potato.
Sweet potatoes. I'm already in trouble, right?
Yeah, it depends on the
Because
child, isn't it? Because it all
exactly.
depends on the child. And again, like you were saying, like all plants have oxalates, but they are just different levels, of oxalates in plants. And it also even depends, different varieties of the same plants might have different levels of oxalates, because the oxalates are like plant poisons made by the plants to protect themselves. So depending on even where they were grown, like depending on what the environment was like, where they were growing, where they're trying to protect themselves, the levels might be different. But we know that for sure, that like sweet potato, beets, celery, plantains usually are quite high in oxalates. So yeah, it's more about that then being creative to look for ways, to still to nourish your child without being too restrictive. There will always be oxalates, or it's just being, moderate.
That's correct. So you guys, I hope you heard what Ogi has just said. Ogi has just actually mentioned at least 5, I think. So 5. Ogi, do you mind if you can just mention the foods that you've just mentioned?
Celery, beets, sweet potato, plantains, what else? Okra, cassava.
Cassava. I think cassava is a big one.
I like I eat Gary. So and so but
just listening to that list, it's extremely depressing, because these are the things that most of our parents, and I have parents in West Africa. I have quite a lot of parents in West Africa, and cassava is a staple. And
yes.
here I am and saying cassava is like loaded. It has got almost 150 times more than the daily required amount. So don't do cassava. And they're like, Natsayi, what? Cassava? Yes, cassava, guys. The children cannot do cassava. So we're just going to recap that. If you've missed that list, you want to come back to the blog. We have a blog on my website, and Ogi is going to list those as well on her Instagram. Go back and look at that list. So, but again, one food that she didn't mention that I probably want to mention, and you guys have heard me talk about this a million times, it's spinach, right? It's
Of course.
spinach. And 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 the thing is, when you look at spinach, it's one of the superfoods, isn't it? So when you look at all these protein shakes, etc., those superfoods that we can give our children, the greens, spinach is going to be there because it's high in B9, right? So it has got all these beautiful things happening. But unfortunately, for our kids, spinach is going to be one of those things that you do want to consider. So if you have a child that has got autism, this will make it very easy for you guys, because I can hear somebody saying, are you saying all the children without autism, not say, should not have spinach? All the children should not have cassava? All the children should not have okra and plantains? I am just saying 150% of, if there's anything like that, if your child, if your child has got level 2, level 3 autism plus the behaviors, endeavor to remove these 10 foods that we have mentioned, with or without the labs. Okay, you remember the approach we had when we went in with the good gluten-free and casein-free challenge? That's what I want us to do in this case. These high foods that contain this amount of oxalates, whether you know your baby doesn't have oxalate issues or your baby has oxalate issues, we want to encourage you to avoid this because they tend to accumulate, right? And the other thing that we were talking about yesterday was the fact that oxalates actually, they will rob all the key nutrients that we're trying to, give our kids.
Yeah,
right?
They're chelating, they're trapping, they chelate iron, even kind of simulate like the fish iron, the anemia, they will trap magnesium, calcium. They're just taking all your nutrients,
Yes, yes.
all their nutrients. And you know
all
that
the, and here
already
we are, we are buying the new supplements as well. We're busy buying the supplements. And when you give your child that level of okra, it will just block the absorption. And iron is a big one. If you have a child that is nonverbal, iron is a big one, Augie. And thank you for mentioning that. Iron is a big one. So if you don't have iron in the brain, remember last week we said iron follows oxygen. So if your child doesn't have iron going into the brain, what does that mean? There's no oxygen in the brain. And guess what is happening? Neurodegeneration. And you can take your kid into AB 40 hours. Those things are not going to work. Okay? Those things are not going to work. So for those that are just joining this conversation, my name is Natsayi, and I'm a naturopathic nutritionist. And my beautiful friend right here is Augie. She's also a naturopathic nutritionist. We specialize in looking after children that have got complex autism. And this is why this kind of conversation is kind of a natural conversation. These are the conversations we have. In most cases, we never really have time to talk about shoes, do we? We just talk about complex issues. This conversation is primarily for parents that have got children that have got autism level 2 and level 3. And more so for parents that have been on this path with me, following my page, or working with Augie and not seeing results, or working with me and not seeing results. This conversation is possibly for you, because could it be oxalates? Could it be oxalates? Because it really does cause neuroinflammation, right? It really does. Let me just, okay, let's just, for interest's sake, I think I pulled out an organic acid test that we can actually just show people what it really looks like when it comes to our children that have got autism. And what we're talking about is not necessarily because we're just looking at your therapy tracker. Trust me, we've seen so many therapy trackers. And what breaks my heart, and I'm sure, Augie, this you feel the same thing as well, is when you have parents that are really doing the best they can. And when you look at a therapy tracker that has got okra in the okra soup and broccoli, it has got carrots, and the child had a shake made with almond milk. You know
and
very
spinach.
well. Yes.
And spinach. And you see that the parents are really trying their best.
They're really trying, okay. They're really trying. And I can tell you this, I had this conversation with one mom, and this was a little while ago, actually. And she just couldn't keep herself together because she was so upset with herself when we were going through her lab, her therapy tracker. And usually when you look at the therapy tracker, you guys, we talk about bio individualizing care here, by the way. If you haven't been new to us, then you will know we specifically look at bio individualization of care, of nutrition. And when you look at these therapy trackers, these things will jump for some strange reason. I'm not sure why this happens. There is a certain default setting. So you can have a mom going too heavy on phenols, or too heavy on oxalates, too heavy on sulfates, too heavy on lactins. It's like they're too heavy on one thing. And when I was looking at a therapy tracker, I was like, that's a lot of oxalates, mommy. And then we pulled out his child's oxalate levels. They
Organic
were,
acid.
oh my God, on the organic acid test. And she was like, I caused this, Natsayi. I caused this. I caused this. And let me just share with you, for those that are on Zoom, we would like you to see this. This is actually a 3-year-old. Okay, come on, get out of that. This is actually a 3-year-old, so I'm going to share this organic acid test. For those that are on TikTok, I am sharing on YouTube an organic acid test for one of our 3-year-olds, and this kid came with a very, very high ATEC score and extremely in distress. So what does a distressed autistic child look like, right? Hand flapping, not sleeping, jumping, hyperactive, excessive stimming, OCD, anxiety, bloated, constipated. Okay, ATEC score extremely high. Okay, and mom says, I've been doing biomed for 2 years. I'm not seeing any results. Instead, not saying my child is regressing, right? So if you have a child that has got autism and you started them on a clean diet and your child appears to be regressing, this is probably your common story. This is probably what you want to look at. Could it be oxalates? Okay, so I looked at her therapy tracker and oxalates they were just oxalates throughout. She was doing all this juices, whatever. It was just a whole lot. And as you can see, let me just mark that for you guys, for those that look at this oxalates. This is a 3-year-old that is carrying so many oxalates. And really, they should be around 35. And here's 460. This is a little kid. A little kid. That's oxalates. And like what Ogi was saying, they affect the mitochondria. You look at the mitochondria, you can see it's actually being affected. Right? And if we were to look at other markers as well, you would find that this kid has got a lot of dysbiosis, candida. Why? Because these guys is like a vicious cycle, candida and oxalates. Okay, so what can they do again? What would be the starting point? What can we give these beautiful souls that are here with us as a takeaway to, especially for those parents that are on this path with us, that are doing the best they can to help their babies? What can they do as a takeaway to, because this is very easy to get here, isn't it? Especially if I've just talked about hibiscus. And this is Natsayi giving Jojo hibiscus.
Well, I think it happens to everybody. Like sometimes you get comfortable. I was telling you that I've been doing a lot of buckwheat pancakes. Still oxalates.
Very high.
So,
buckwheat is very high.
Yeah, well. The reason why I'm saying is that we all, in this case, I know, but I'm still doing it. You see, so that's kind of like they say that if you know better, you should do better. But sometimes we get a bit lax, and everything seems to be going well, and then so we have to be careful. I think everybody needs to be careful as well. It's just like you mentioned, talking about hibiscus. I didn't even know about hibiscus. It's not some hibiscus tea. It's not something we drink here. So it's good to know about hibiscus being high oxalate.
Yeah.
So what they can do?
No, go on.
Using oxalates in their food, making some swaps, making it like if you're eating a lot of nuts, maybe change to seeds. Seeds tend to be lower in oxalates. Like if you're making nut milks, maybe you can switch to seed milk, like maybe sunflower seed or pumpkin seed milk instead of almond nut. The thing is, if you reduce the oxalates drastically, you can cause more problem. Like if you go like very low, you can cause what you call, simulate what you call dumping symptoms, And when that happens, the children can be really uncomfortable. You start seeing things like maybe sandy stool, like stool that looks like they're together, but once it hits the toilet, it kind of disintegrates into like sand. It's very strange. You can start seeing things like cloudy urine as well. So dumping in the urine. So the best thing is to go slowly. So it's all about portion sizes. Maybe if you are eating 2 cups, I'm just giving an example, 2 cups of sweet potato, maybe you can go down to 1 cup and then replace the other part with butternut squash, which is lower oxalates. You can also add, I'll let you talk about what else can be done.
Yes, the other thing that I actually wanted to mention in today, if you're going to take anything away from this conversation, don't focus too much on the low oxalates or medium oxalates. especially if you look at your therapy tracker. If you are using a therapy tracker, if you don't have a therapeutic tracker, beautiful souls, just use any diary. Go to if you're in Africa, right? Just go to a bookshop and start writing what you're giving your child. Because when you get to where we are, when we start having these conversations, you can look at what is in your child's plate and you can actually see what it is that is there. So for me, like what Oge is saying, I just want to to speak into what she's just said right now. Don't automatically remove all the oxalates, okay? Because if you remove all the oxalates, you will have big regression, okay? I just had an amazing follow-up call just a few minutes ago for those that are joining me. I'm just coming from a follow-up call, and I just thought the synchronicity was just perfect because this beautiful young man, his previous plan was practically detoxing oxalates. It takes plus or minus 6 months to a year for us to clear the oxalates completely out. And I promise you, it's been magical because he was on 150, on 50 points on ATEC. And as of today, I said to mom, no, I need to record this. And because I was screaming, I even forgot to press the record button. But I managed to catch that feedback, and she's given me the consent to share it with you. I've worked with her for a long time, by the way, not just 1 week, not just 2 months. I've had this young man, he's 15 now, for a little while, and mom is a great student, right? And we managed to record that, so I hope we will share that on our website for you to hear it. But I thought it was amazing because it was exactly the conversation that we were having with Ogi about oxalates, the impact of oxalates on our children's brains. And if you look at the studies like Susan Owens, Dr. Shaw, most of the children, like the ones that I see that are severe or complex, right, they will have issues with oxalates. So I really want to encourage you to go back. And if your food therapy tracker has okra, maybe it's time to say goodbye to okra. Okay, you can simply say that here. If your therapy tracker has got plantains, let's try, especially if your child is, I feel like I'm having to say this in an apologetic way, but I probably need to move out of saying this in an apologetic way. Okra, plantains, cassava, spinach, almond, chocolate. Hello, we forgot chocolate. It's extremely
yeah. Beets.
We forgot chocolate. It's very extremely high in oxalates. Just remove those things. Okay, don't remove those things. And to avoid dumping, like what Ogi was mentioning, all you just need to do is don't focus heavy on the low oxalate diet. We still need some level of oxalates in the system to allow that volume to come down. Like I was saying, Jojo is having 1,000 milligrams of oxalates. Really, that's in 1 cup of hibiscus. Thank God it wasn't like a daily ritual, but that can be very detrimental. So we want to bring it down slowly, maybe to get to 50 milligrams. So what is the target, healthy target amount of oxalates? 50 to 100 milligrams a day, but hibiscus has got 1,000. So you see how bad it is? So bring them down slowly, okay? Okay, and did I miss anything in that point?
No. So, like maybe some examples of foods that are okay, maybe could mention.
Example of foods, like I was saying to you, and I was just thinking about this young man that is very complex, and his salicylate levels are extremely high. His oxalate levels are extremely high, and I found myself having to recommend the mom to try things like rice, white rice, things. Most of the things that I say to you guys, they're not great. But equally, there are some foods that we know they are safe foods that are like butternuts, they're low in oxalates. Things like zucchinis, they're low in oxalates. So those are safe foods. Things like carrots, we want them in there, but again, we want to be mindful of the volume. Don't overdo it. Like one mom was just carrot juicing and carrot juicing. Remember, it's about milligrams. It's about milligrams. So if you have 50 milligrams plus 50 milligrams plus 50 milligrams plus 50 milligrams, if you keep doing those 50 milligrams, you end up getting to 1,000 milligrams. So you want to be mindful about the amount of oxalates that you're giving. We're
So
going back
broccoli,
to, say that again?
I said broccoli, Brussels sprouts as well.
Yes, all those things you can consider bringing those things in, but the biggest takeaway is remove those highest those foods that we've spoken about, those 10 foods that are extremely high in oxalates. Now we probably have to add 11 because I didn't know hibiscus it had 1,000 milligrams of oxalates. We have to add it in there. Yes, so but try and remove those things. And if your baby is really struggling with oxalates, if you've done your labs, if you have a question and you're saying to me, Natsayi, how can we check for oxalates? We run an organic acid test. If you're in the deep dive, for those that are in the deep dive, we're going to be looking at labs. We can look at the organic acid test. It measures that. And in clinic, both myself and Oge, this is our default lab, really. So we automatically measure that if you come and work with us. And yeah, that's the way you can measure it. Also, the other thing that you can actually do at home, beautiful souls, the other thing that you can do at home, especially if your child has been really accumulating oxalates for a long time, is to collect your child's morning urine and put it in a bottle and put it aside and look at it. Look at it. Is it too cloudy? And usually you see deposits at the bottom of it because these are little crystals that are there. But like what Ogi says, you really want to look for those signs. If your child is bedwetting and it's not going away, if your child is aggressive, if your child is nonverbal, I really want you to think oxalates may be an issue here, especially if you've tried a lot of things. If your child is, hand flapping and rocking, walking around, this for me is classic, walking around like this. The other thing that Oge mentioned is the subject of joint pains. I know this is a bit difficult for us to assess if our children are nonverbal, but they are very, very common. And those children that refuse to wear shoes, by the way, we've got a lot of children that says, no, I don't want to wear my shoes. You really want to probably consider, could it be a subject of oxalates that is troubling my baby? And when we measure that and when we work on those, our babies, really the studies that have been done in this subject, they are so promising. And I can tell you this, like I was saying today, 100% of my children that have got oxalate issues, when we address the oxalates properly, the difference between it's like day and night for the majority of children because it's such a big relief.
Yeah,
okay,
definitely.
And in regards to supplementation, which is a subject that everybody likes talking about, the reason why we have oxalate issues among children that have got autism is really that the majority of them have got an issue with sulfuration, where when this process is not working properly, and methylation as well, when this process is not working properly, the metabolism of oxalate becomes a big issue. So our children end up having issues with that. And for those that are joining me on TikTok and on YouTube, after this conversation, I know I'm having a variety of conversations. If you've just joined, the current conversation is about oxalates. And if your question is about oxalates, then we are happy to address it today. But if it's not about oxalates, we will keep those questions. We don't go away disheartened, because I can see a lot of lab tech or a lot of questions about other things. So today I've been privileged and honored to have Ogi with me. She's my fellow naturopathic nutritionist. I've I've known her for years. So we really want to take advantage of this subject of oxalates, because both my clients and her clients are having a hard time, with this. And the thing is, with diet, I think it makes it very difficult for most of us parents, because this is where the majority of healing is. Healing is, without the right diet for your child, healing doesn't really happen. So we have to keep hammering the subjects of us addressing these things that we can address. Okay. So in terms of supplements, okay, let's talk about the supplements that could be helpful in this case. But be mindful, guys, we are not here to give you a diagnosis, to give you some cure. We need to go and implement these things that we're talking, the supplements that we're talking about. You need to work with a practitioner.
Somebody, work with a nutritionist, work with a functional medicine practitioner. Yeah, so this is our disclaimer.
This is our disclaimer. So don't go away, giving your child excess calcium and
Magnesium.
driving magnesium and phosphorus on the other side, because that's what usually happens. Mom comes to clinic and the kid was loaded. Calcium was like, oh, she's been supplementing extremely high doses of calcium, because apparently at some point she heard that, calcium, they help with navigating the subject of oxalates, which is so true, right? Which is so true. Like, for example, the storyline I was talking to you guys about, the mom that I was supporting, calcium had to play a big part, because it helps bind the oxalates. Okay, but that's not the only thing as well. But equally, when we do that, we are working with the other minerals that are, that assist us to calcium. You guys, you always, if you followed me for a long time, I always talk about this. There are some minerals that work together so closely: calcium, magnesium, and phosphorus. If you give too much calcium, you offset magnesium. If you give too much magnesium, without supporting the calcium levels, then you have an issue. So we want to make sure that we work with somebody. And remember, moderation and is very, very important. Yeah, I've just spoken about calcium right now. What else would they?
So calcium, magnesium.
Magnesium,
yeah. But the thing is, when you're giving it with what the magnesium is doing is binding the oxalate, which means it's not no longer available to the body, isn't it? So we're really just trying to address the oxalate with the magnesium. Some B vitamins as well, so like B6, B1 as well. So, but it's always better to work with somebody like Natsayi was saying, because you have to be careful with B vitamins. So, introducing B vitamins to your children, because some children might not, it's not very easy. Some children might tolerate certain forms of Bs, and, so it's very individual. But B vitamins are important. B6 and B1, especially.
Yes. Yeah. It's when it comes to oxalates, B6 and B1, they play a big role, especially B6. You guys, I've spoken quite a lot about B6. B6 is a big subject, and for those especially then are having issues with speech, B6 is usually depleted. Even when we go back and look at this organic acid test that I was looking at, this beautiful little kid, you will see that his B6 is very, very low. And of course, it makes sense that his B6 is very low. He has too much. Let me just share this on the Zoom screen. He has got quite a lot of oxalates. So this is possibly the reason why he cannot handle the oxalates, as you can look at this B6. Okay, and we know B6 is needed by quite a lot of processes, and not just in the subject of oxalates. It's needed, it's a core factor to quite a lot of systems. And this kid has got such a depleted level on this organic acid test. And if you go down and you look at, look at where vitamin C is, all these key minerals nutrients that this kid needs, actually he doesn't have it. Biotin is very low. Again, it's needed for us to offset the issues of yeast and candida and to support that healthy environment in the gut. So when it comes to looking after children, that like I look after and like Ogi looks after, we need a holistic approach. Okay, and where you guys can come in is just do the first step, which is what we are asking you to do. So when you come to clinic, when you go and see Augie, we don't want to see plantains. You remember the what we said about gluten? We don't want to see gluten on the therapy tracker. We also don't want to see plantains on the therapy tracker. We don't want to see okra on the therapy tracker. We don't want to see chocolates on the therapy tracker. We don't want to see spinach on the therapy tracker. At least when we remove those key nutrient, key sources. Yes, these key sources of oxalates. When you come to clinic, the levels of oxalates on your child's labs, they're not going to be so high. They're just going to just be there, but equally manageable. So we can then move our beautiful babies in the right direction. But yes, if you're going to go back to your practitioner and say, hey, there were these two women on the social media today, they were talking about oxalates. That's a good thing. That's a very, very good thing. Ask your practitioner if you're not ready to work with us. Ask your practitioner, say, can we make sure that my child has got enough B6? Can you make sure that my child has got enough biotin? Can you make sure that we've addressed yeast? Can we make sure that you've looked at my child's mineral markers, especially calcium? Okay, so that we can get our kids moving. Like I said, not everything. If you look at this child, those that are on Zoom, if you look at this child, this kid is only 3 years old, and there is no autism here, right? There is no autism. Does the child have a diagnosis of autism? Yes. But when you look, if I was to be given this lab without knowing that child, I was practically just going to look at a lab of somebody that has got metabolic issues that we can address. What does that mean? What does that mean? That means that, like I said, if your child has got a diagnosis of autism level 2, think it's autism plus something else. If your child is level 3, autism plus, plus, plus. And in this case, with this child, if I was to go forward and show you the whole lab, you will see why it's autism plus, plus, plus. And guess what? The beautiful thing, we can address these things.
Yes, hope.
Yeah, right? We can address these things. Okay, beautiful souls. Do we have anything that we need to eat, Augie?
No, I think you've said it all.
Okay, if you haven't followed, if you're on YouTube, please follow us and subscribe. And I just check on the link. There's Augie's Instagram. Please just follow her from there. And if you haven't joined the deep dive, we have the new cohort starting on the 4th of April. We'll be happy to have you. These are some of the things that we address. And if you're in the community, because I've seen some of my beautiful mummies here, if you're in the community with me, I am going to be sharing with you, whether you're in the deep dive or you're just generally in the community. If you're working with your child that has got autism, if you're truly working with your child, not if you're just starting, you can always join the community. There's a link above, one of the community, there's a link above. In there, I'm going to be sharing with you a 7-day menu of food plan where you have Monday through to Sunday suggested meals that you can give your child. What I've just done there, I've actually just included histamines, because usually what I have is I have oxalates and histamines. They are just so difficult to navigate, especially if you've got a child with a high ATEC. So look out for that, and it will be in the downloadable. And if you're in the community, I'm going to be seeing you on Friday, and we will be talking about neuroplasticity. Okay. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it was good to chat.
Oh, it ended up being such a long chat, but I must admit, I think that brings it to rest, isn't it? The whole subject of oxalates, because we kept talking about oxalates. We can finally move on to another subject. So guys, let me know in the chat, what would you like us to talk about? The link is, if you look on top of me, those that are on YouTube, above me right there is a link in the bio, in the profile, on the profile area. There's a link right there. If you're on YouTube, you will find Augie's link in the description box. You also find my link in the description box. So now we want to hear from you, beautiful souls, before we go, because I had my eyes on Augie right now in my laptop, and now I want to hear from you. You're on YouTube, on TikTok, or even on Instagram when you get to watch this on Instagram, because we're also on Instagram. Augie is on Instagram. Let us know what food we mentioned today that is on your child's diet. Is your baby having okra? Is your baby having plantain? What is it that your baby is having as of today? All right. Is your child bedwetting? Is your child hyperactive? Is your child excessively stimming? Hand flapping, right? If your child poking their eye like this, if your child is poking their eyes, please connect with myself and Ogi as soon as possible, right? As soon as possible. If your child is constantly having their hand in their pants, please connect with me or Ogi as soon as possible, right? That is a red flag, and we want to deal with it properly because the oxalates do affect kidney function. And last week we spoke about, was it last week when we spoke about the organs of detoxification? You know, our children, they struggle with detoxification, and one of the key organs that supports detoxification is kidneys. So oxalates really have a direct effect on the kidneys. So if your baby is putting their hands on their pants all the time, and if you look at your child's private parts and they're red and so, okay, they're poking their eyes. If you're in a different country and you can't connect with us, please go to your doctor, okay, and tell them that there are these two women on social media and say, can you just cross-check if my baby has got oxalates? And can they also look at your baby's calcium levels, okay? But remember, work with someone. Now, let me just look at quickly if I have questions. And thank you to the beautiful souls that have, what about dates? Miriam, I'm answering you now, my beautiful soul. I know you are on the other side in the deep dive. The dates are no, and I will be seeing you on Friday. We can talk about that a little bit, a little more. Okay, but definitely 100%, the dates are low. Please mention vegetables that are low in oxalates. J, you have a whole lot of list of foods that are low in oxalates on your planner. But if you're saying this to support others, then we've already spoken about this. We've spoken about butternuts. We've talked about zucchini. We also talked about carrots. Yes, carrots are okay. They're low to medium. All right. So they are a lot. Okay. But again, if you're in the community, you'll find the whole menu for you. So you can just navigate that properly without issues there. Okay. And on TikTok, let me see. What is the best food for children covering their ears? We've already spoken about oxalates quite a bit. Today we're talking about oxalates, beautiful souls. So I'm just looking at TikTok to see if we have issues there. Lala, your baby is on plantains. So if your baby is on plantains, Lala, and your baby has been having plantains for a long time, I want you to consider your baby having a high volume load, a total load of oxalates being very, very high. Okay, so I want you to take those oxalates down in slowly, not quickly. Take them down slowly, not too quickly. Okay, because once we see plantain there, okay, am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah, plantains, big red flag, big red flag. You're the mommy that I'll be saying very, very go slowly. Go slowly. We don't want dumping. We don't want dumping. The dumping syndrome that Ogi was talking about. If you didn't hear Ogi talk about dumping syndrome, go back and watch this video again. Okay, she spoke about that quite at length about dumping syndrome. Right, what children early have. Everything seems to be a Latia. Yes, it does sound like that, especially if you're in this community. So, okay, there's a mom on TikTok. She says, "What now?" If it means really, just quickly, can you just
Sorry.
to this, because her question. This is our conversation. What's your name? Lataya. I promise you, even Natsayi, get to do that for my own child. And Ogi also gets to do that for her own child. You are not alone. Okay. So her storyline is, let me just drop this share button. Okay. She is saying, What then? What shall our kids eat, Natsayi? Every time you talk to us, you are talking to us about something else is not right. Something else our children shouldn't be eating. What else are you expecting our kids to eat?
There's lots of stuff to eat. There's lots of stuff to eat. Lots of stuff to eat. It depends on where you are, I think. So you can eat all the different kinds of squashes. You can eat carrots. You can eat broccoli, Brussels sprouts, red skins, potatoes. Potatoes with red skin. They're the lowest ones. Cauliflower. You can eat some tomatoes, but not, don't go crazy on tomatoes. So it's about portion sizes. It's impossible to have zero oxalates. All plants have oxalates. It's impossible to have zero oxalates, but it's just about, going for foods that are more medium to low and excluding, like Natty was saying, just exclude those ones that we've talked about that are really high, and then just concentrate on, expanding your child's diet, including, more vegetables. We advocate for vegetables for sure, but just try to avoid those ones that are really high. So you can have like romaine lettuce or the different lettuces. Instead of spinach, you can have some kales. Kale is okay. Just moderately. And then if you can have like, I think Americans call it arugula. So that's like, what's it called in the UK? It's called something different. So you can have zucchini or courgettes. UK, you can have some parsnips. You can have swede. So there's so many things you can eat. We're not saying we're just,
Latvia, you are on TikTok. You may possibly missed some of those things that Ogi has said because she's not looking at you directly. She's looking at Zoom. But if you go hop onto the YouTube and replay just this part, just remember this timeline and replay that. I promise you, she's given a lot of options that are safe. But again, I just want to say, just a side note, when you come to this platform, okay, really, when you come to this platform, we are not directly speaking into your child, okay? And don't feel overwhelmed by that. Don't feel overwhelmed by that. Today, for example, I was looking at this 3-year-old that has got an organic acid test that has got very high oxalates, okay? So that has got very high oxalates. I'm talking, so automatically this conversation, for those that are on TikTok, can you press that? Can you tap on my forehead and let's get it to 10,000, please. 10,000 likes. So if you have joined this conversation, am I right, Ogi? Right?
Yeah.
And speaking into a child, in regards to a child that has got issues with processing, metabolizing what we call oxalates. We are talking about a child that is probably having all these symptoms that we spoke about that are likely going to be oxalates. We are also talking into this research that was actually done, really. Dr. Shah and Susan Owens have done amazing research on the subject of oxalates. And for me in clinic, when I see I think more than 50% of my kids are coming up with high oxalates, more than 50%. So this needs to be talked about. So when you hear me and Ogi coming here and talking about these things, don't think, oh, my child can't eat that. Okay, oh, my child can't eat that. What next? What next? What next? Always remember, when you see one child with autism, you've actually seen one child with autism. When Jojo looks at an apple, he doesn't see an apple. He sees salicylates, right? But guess what? When he sees rice, he's good with rice. He doesn't flare up with rice. Nothing bothers him about rice. But if I come to another child, I say no rice because their gut needs to heal. They have high arsenic, right? So this is why we do what we do, because we are
it's very personalized.
individual.
So it's not just like, it's not about, you have to be careful because everything doesn't apply to your child. It's good to have the knowledge, but just, yeah.
Everything will not apply to your child, mommy. Okay. So don't be broken by that. Okay, don't be broken by that. Use your therapy tracker like I've taught you guys on this platform. Use your therapy tracker. I try this food. I observe. How is my child doing?
Mm-hmm.
The problem though, in this case, okay, is accumulation, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
you can give your child okra today and they've got no issue. And then you keep giving them okra. It's not going to accumulate in 3 days. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
It's
that
unlike histamines. It's unlike high histamine foods. High histamine food like tomorrow, just 2 days.
today
Like
you will know. Mm.
exactly. But oxalates, they don't just show up like that. So they are accumulated. But for you guys to take away, what I want you to take away, I think Ogie and me, we will agree on
Mm-hmm.
this. Remove those 10 things. Those 10 things, if you remove those 10 things, we've done a big job, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then we can give the body the time to repair and to heal itself. Okay. Um, anything for humping? Potatoes. Okay. I think Lala. She's not gonna like me. Did you mention potatoes on the
What
top?
did you say about? I said red-skinned potatoes, but again, not every child can have red-skinned. Like I might be able to, I might give one child red-skinned potatoes, but red-skinned potatoes not for another child. So it just depends. Like you said, well, I was just naming foods in general. You can have red lentils as well. They are lower in oxalates, black-eyed beans, chickpeas. There are lots of food. There are lots of options. There's no need to get
Yeah.
be in despair.
Yes. So for those that are asking whether myself or Ogie work with one-on-one, yes, 100% we do work with one-on-one. This is why you find we have a lot of case studies, by the way. Most of the things that we talk about is because our clients, they show up in clinic. So we do 100% work with one-on-one. That is primarily what we do. And we focus heavily on just children with complex autism, like I said before. So if your child has got complex autism and you're looking for somebody to work with, Augie is right here and I'm here as well. And if you haven't joined the deep dive, I can never say that a million times. Please join the deep dive. Let's not Google our children out of the distress. Did I just say that right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yes,
you did.
let's not Google. It will take time though, because I did that, isn't it? Okay, I tried to Google my
Well, we
son
all
out of
do that,
distress.
and you
And
don't
we
blame
do work
anybody for
with
doing that.
yes, and Yuma says, do you work with children that are outside UK? Yes, we do. As we
Mm-hmm.
speak, I have 33 countries. We've added another country on our list. I have worked with children that are in 33 countries. I have babies in 33 countries, and my favorite country is Cameroon. I love Cameroon.
Yeah.
I need to go and see Cameroon. I need to go and see Cameroon. I have beautiful parents in there. So is my time saying? Sorry, I don't understand that. Okay, beautiful souls, we're gonna round that time. Okay, we totally appreciate your presence. Can you let us
Thank,
know what you want us to talk about next? And if you appreciate Ogie, please just throw some
thank.
likes. Those that are on TikTok, please throw some likes. And I found it a whole lot easier having you here, okay? So,
Oh, it was nice to chat. Thank
so
you for having me.
so I am definitely going to be dragging you again and again and again and again.
Oh,
It's my time seeing you. Sorry, I cannot understand what she's saying. How do we connect? How can she find you? Okay, sorry. I've got Eggy here helping us to moderate. So how can you connect with us? If you're on TikTok, the profile link is up there. If you haven't subscribed, if you haven't followed, if you haven't liked, please do that. That is supporting our work. That is teamwork. And if you're on YouTube, please hit your notification button because we will be live tomorrow. And tomorrow, what are we talking about tomorrow? Do you want a subject? Do you want to pick a subject? And we'll be here to talk about it. I will be here to talk about it. We'll give Ogi a bit of a break because she's fully booked tomorrow. So just let us know what you would like us to talk about. And if you're watching this on replay, again, give us suggestions of what you want us to talk about. We are naturopathic nutritionists. We focus heavily on nutrition, supplements, lifestyle, guys. Lifestyle is the biggest player. And for those that are in the deep dive, like I said, I'm going to be seeing you guys on Friday, and keep up the good work. But for now, from out, cheers. Bye-bye.
bye bye.
I really liked that. Yeah. Yeah.